on the 27th of October, 1726. That was the first Sunday where people could hear Cantate 56, the Kreuzab Cantate, the Pilgrim Staff Cantate, could you say. And the subject is very clear. There is somebody who is suffering from gout and is praying to God, let it be over. And he takes up the pilgrim staff and knows that life is not yet over, but the aim to go to heaven is clear. He needs to pass, and then he's talking about it. It's like being on a ship and making a big travel on a ship to far away. And you hear, for instance, in the first recitative, you hear the waves of the sea played by the cello. Wah, 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 wah. So it's talking like life is like that. On a ship, bad things could happen, good things could happen, but at the end you come in the right harbor, and of course the harbor is heaven. So you can hear from the very beginning already this longing for the right harbor. With the strings and the oboes, it's very obvious, I feel. With the theme. And the longing is in the Baroque very often this figure. I think Bach is directly from the very beginning, it's there. And the melody, Ich will im Kreuz hab, ich will im Kreuz gern. I want to take up the pilgrim staff. Really, I want to do that because I have no choice. And I know at the end there's only the best solution for me. Bach never thought about himself as a genius. I think it was inappropriate at that time, the 17th, 18th century. Nobody thought about himself. Always it was after the death of somebody that somebody became bigger and more important. Bach was a craftsman. Really somebody coming from the guilds. His father, his grandfather, all his family members were what we would say people who were stadpfeifer, people who played or were trumpeters, watchmen, guardsmen in the tower, till musicians of the town who played different instruments. And they all composed a bit. And Bach was just out of this family of many generations, suddenly, like so often, that great creation where nobody believed it is possible. We would say now, one of the greatest composers ever existed, for me the greatest. But at that time he did his best, and I'm certain Bach knew of himself that his cantatas were much better than Koopman. I cannot believe that he was so friendly and so social. I'm certain he knew that. But it didn't help him, because there were no CDs, so there was no problem. He was there, had a very important job, and he was just dreaming about that things would go the way he wanted to have them to go. And if you see Bach in the early Mulhausen time, going to a church, a small church, having a great success there, going to Weimar, coming at a court, going to Köthen, and Leipzig, it goes on and on. And you think, where will it end? Because very clear, Bach is in Leipzig less and less happy with the whole situation. He was difficult. And although he didn't think about himself as a genius, he still knew that those stupid burgomasters of the town, they were less good people in their job than he was. And so he was somebody who was fighting, was writing nasty letters. And I'm certain in Leipzig they said, why, we did choose this man here at this job. We could have somebody else who was much more easy. But they had him, and he didn't die so soon, so it was a difficult job. But Bach was certainly looking for another job, because he was disappointed as well. And I can imagine it. I can imagine that somebody is disappointed just because you do the best you can. You write the most beautiful things, and you see all your colleagues doing what they can. But yeah, it's another level. And you go on, and the people next to you are not estimating you as high as you think you should be. And then even not as a genius, but just as a very good craftsman, as somebody really worth to be proud of. And so he's writing letters to Danzig to try to go away. It didn't work out. He's trying to get a job in Dresden, which of course was for a Protestant musician difficult at the Catholic court. So it was difficult for Bach. And if then, when he died, already Karl Manuel Bach started with it, and his students, and then many people made him holy and holier, and leaving a work which is incomplete, the art of fugue. Of course, a genius should leave, like Leonardo da Vinci and like Michelangelo, something which is incomplete. And so Bach was the right type to say, our first genius. And it went on like that. But I think Bach maybe would have loved it, those people and said, but who I am, I could never do this unless I got inspiration from higher. It's a difficult question to answer why Bach is so up to date in our time. Of course, you can say he was a genius composer, he was able to write things that nobody else could do at that level. That's clear. But if you see what texts Bach was sometimes using, you're amazed what could come out of those texts, because some of those texts are not the best poetry of the time, and then I'm very positive to say that. And still, Bach is so able to put an extra something to the text that it comes across and it really touches your heart. And I think that's maybe more clear with Bach than with any composer of cantatas, that Bach is really trying to make for an audience who almost cannot read clear what he's talking about. I mean, it's really, if you hear such a cantata like the Kreuzab cantata, when it starts, you know, oh, but it's something serious happening here. With the and for somebody now not having any idea about the seufzers, as you call them in official musicological language, if you don't know anything about that, you still feel that, oh, that's beautiful. And I think this so naturally writing about emotions, this so naturally writing melodies which, if they are in your head, if you hear them once, they won't never leave you. And I think that's only a sign of a great composer. And in our time, when of course less and less people go to churches, it's even more strange that particularly Bach cantatas, who are so clearly fit into a ceremony, in a church ceremony, are now performed more and more in church halls. And of course, to perform them in the church is much more nice to do that than in a concert hall. But on this moment in the concert hall, there are more people than in the church to listen to those cantatas.